Greetings and welcome to Starkville. I'm Jason Stark. I write about baseball for The Athletic, and I'm joined once again by my good friend, writer, broadcaster, professor, distinguished former major leaguer, and the voice of Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN Radio, Doug Glanville. Doug, how are you, my friend?
Well, I'm doing good. It's nice to not be coming off of a red eye on a Monday, but as we record, but probably go into a red eye, but better feeling now, but it's
Yeah,
good.
we're
Yeah.
gonna monitor to see if your eyes get red because that's just what
Yes.
you do here. Um, Doug, it's an exciting day in Starkville because the great Joey Votto is visiting. But before we bring in Joey, I wanted to ask you about something that I know has stirred some emotions in you. The Blue Jays have a rookie, guy named
Yeah.
David Schneider. Just as an aside, I think he's got more hits in his first week in the big leagues than you got in like 9 seasons. He's been kind of hot. But here's the part I wanted to ask you about. He's wearing the glove that was once actually worn by a man near and dear to your heart, actually to both of us, the late, great John Vukovich, who's a legendary coach of yours with the Phillies. It's an
Yeah.
incredible story. He's from the Philadelphia area. He found this glove in the lost and found at this facility where he coaches in the off season. It sat there for a year. Nobody claimed it. He's started using it and only has now learned the full story that it belonged to John Vukovich. And there's even more connections, because John Vukovich's son was the college roommate of the manager of the Blue Jays. So it's really wild. Curious, though, what thoughts and feelings has all of this invoked in you since our friend Hazel May
Yeah.
from Sportsnet posted a photo of that glove the other day?
Yeah. I mean, it almost felt like divine inspiration because I just happened to be looking at the thread and, in Twitter or whatever's going on in X, you're trying to find and you stumble across stuff because if you follow a lot of people, it's almost like luck when you run into some post. And I happened to see this
Now it is.
and I was like, wow, what is this? And then, I know she had originally wasn't sure about it. And then she clarified with an update. And I don't know if someone CC'd me in there or something, but then I really saw the connection. And, like John Vukovich, I mean, I was just looking through my wallet here. So in my wallet is the John Vukovich card from his service. So
Oh, wow.
I've carried this with me since he passed. And, I was very close to John, as we called Vuk, and Vuk was just a father figure. He was a third base coach. He had the exterior, the gravelly old school, really good third baseman in his day. But inside was a guy that really was, attentive to people and who they were and who they are, and just tried to understand, to be compassionate. And he was really empathetic, a coach that did so much more than just the X's and O's, but his passion for the game and his passion for winning translated into just winning people and just trying to make sure that he was in tune with everyone, and he really was. And so a lot of people leaned on him, but I particularly connected because my father was sick from 2000 to 2002, had a lot of chronic illnesses from cancer to strokes, and Vuk was one I literally and figuratively leaned on in many different occasions. He was the tears after I forgot how many outs there were after I learned the news of my dad's major stroke. This is starting the 2000 season. My mom called and said, look, your dad had a stroke. Don't come home yet. Wait until you come east. But in the meantime, we had to play the Diamondbacks and the Astros. And I was so distracted, I forgot how many outs there were. And Steve Finley with the Diamondbacks tagged up from second base and saw that I didn't know what was going on and then kept going. And that ended up being the winning run. And I was pretty distraught. And so Vuk and Francona, my manager, then said, hey, they wanted to protect me from the media storm that was about to hit. And I knew I was in trouble. So I remember, leaning on Vuk, tears of frustration of everything under the sun because of all I was dealing with my dad all that week, and I was keeping it to myself. And he went and told the GM Ed Wade, and then told Francona just to give him a heads up, and he sort of took it upon himself. So he was always there for me in so many different ways. And over those years when my dad just got more and more sick, he ultimately passed away the last game of the season in 2002. And there was many representatives from the Phillies at my dad's service, which also spoke to the family that was the Phillies those years and today. So, Vuk is a special guy to me, obviously carrying him with me right next to my dad's card from his service. And, I just will always remember not only what he did for, the passion for the game and how much he loved to compete, but also just what he did to give you perspective that you're not alone in this game. And he reminded me that of every single day. And he did it in such a way that when my father was gone, I had John Vukovich to have my back instead.
Wow. Yeah, he was a special person. He just an unforgettable presence in so many lives. It's hard to make people understand sometimes that just this guy wasn't a manager; he was a coach, but he had so much impact. You know the way people around the Cardinals sometimes talk about George Kissel. That's how people in Philadelphia talk about John Vukovich, and for good reason. I mean, even me, I was just a writer, and he held me to a standard. I don't know why. We liked each other. We talked a lot to each other. I learned a lot from this guy, but he always felt like I should be held to a standard of quality that maybe he didn't hold all the writers to. And if I wrote something that ticked him off,
Yeah.
I would hear about it. But he'd do it in a way. He'd say stuff like, "You're better than this. You shouldn't be writing this crap because you're better than this. Do better." Okay, so like if John Vukovich took the time to tell you that, you took it seriously, So all I can tell you is it's just the coolest thing ever that this guy is wearing John Vukovich's glove in the big leagues. And I saw that photo that Hazel posted with the letters VUK on it.
Mm-hmm.
It was a goosebump kind of moment because of who this guy was. And David Schneider only now beginning to understand himself whose glove he was wearing. It's just tremendous. What a story. Doug, I know you have to run because you have some stuff that's going to pull you away from the conversation with Joey Votto, but I promise the show will go on. Mm-hmm. And if you're listening out there, Doug will be back in a little bit because he would never want to miss out on the trivia segment. Hey, it's a special day here in Starkville, the highlight of every summer, because it's that day when the most interesting man in baseball, the great Joey Votto, stops by to look around town. Joey, so happy you could make it, man. How's life treating you?
I'm in Starkville right now. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are.
Okay, all right. So tell me about the local restaurants and coffee options. Where am I going to go eat? Where am I going to get my best club sandwich?
Yeah, the Starkville Diner is legendary. I don't know if it's ever open, but we always tout it. And I'm pretty sure our friend Doug Glanville, who, by the way, is crushed that he couldn't be here. Last time you were here, pretty sure he promised you a statue in the Starkville town square and a key to the city. And I'm going to be honest about this. Doug promises a lot of stuff. He delivers none of that stuff. So we accept his apologies that he's just a little behind on the Starkville Joey Votto statue.
I'm assuming this key to the city is when I attempt to open the diner, it's not going to work either, huh?
We're working on that. We're just a little slow on all this stuff. I'm sorry.
Today's Friday. Oh my gosh. I thought it was okay. So yeah, no, I'm glad to be on the show. And last time we spoke was, when was it?
It was right after your shoulder surgery.
Right after my shoulder surgery. Interesting. When I remember because we were in the family waiting room. I did this podcast in the family waiting room area, and I basically, once I had my shoulder surgery, I had rehab, and every day I booked Spanish lessons and whatever commitments I had, and you were layered in between a Spanish lesson and then some sort of other interview. So you were sandwiched in terms of priorities during the day. So yeah.
Bueno. Well, since we mentioned all the shoulder stuff, look, you had serious shoulder surgery stuff to deal with. Your season started late. Let's just get to that. How tough was that shoulder stuff? And do you feel like now physically you can be yourself again after all the rehab?
Yeah, if you ask anybody, any expert on a rotator cuff and bicep combo, uh I don't want to I don't want to make this like dramatic or not, but it's like my understanding is it's really difficult to come back from and difficult to be successful and to return at a level that one was previous. I think maybe 50-50.
Wow.
And so it was difficult, but it wasn't difficult in the way that I was like moody about it or emotional about it, because I struggled so much preceding the surgery. And I hit poorly. I felt not good on a daily basis. I was confused. I'll tell you. So last year, I don't know if I told this story, but last year, I had, like, my back was sore, and I took, I want to say 7-8 days, but they didn't IL me, and I had the 4 days for the All-Star break. And so after the All-Star break, I played the first game in New York City. I believe we were playing at Yankee Stadium. And I went outside and my back was feeling great. I was feeling great. And we were facing Garrett Cole that night. And I ran a sprint, and my hand hurt so badly. And my elbow hurt so badly. And my shoulder hurt, but mostly my hand hurt. And I was like, what's going on? And it had been like this for a month or so, maybe a month and a half. And I wasn't able to practice for a while. I wasn't able to take my cage swings. And so I was like, why is my hand still sore? I just took 8 days off. We had the All-Star break. I should feel fine. And I'm facing Garrett Cole, and he's throwing as hard as he possibly can. He's still, at that time, right in the heart of a great season, looking like its best. And I took a swing in the first at bat, and my hand hurts so badly. And I was like, what is going on? And it stayed like that for the next 5-6 weeks before I had the surgery. But every day I was just confused. More than anything, I was confused. Why can't I do what I should be doing? Why can't I power the ball? Why are these right-handed pitchers dominating me? I mean, a strength of mine throughout my career has been hitting against right-handed pitching. It's one of the nice advantages of being a left-handed hitter. There's so many right-handers in the league. The ball's coming at you, and I was just getting dominated by right-handed pitching. And once I had the surgery, to answer your original question of how I wasn't emotional during the rehab. I was really struggling on a consistent basis preceding the surgery, losing sleep, confused, long slumps, couldn't hit against right-handers, couldn't react well against breaking balls. And now that I'm healthy and trending towards full health, and kind of calibrating my swing, adapting, my game to the present version of major league pitching, it's been really fun to see the progress, watching each week a new exit velocity peak, or like speaking to the hitting coaches and talking about an improvement in my attack angle, or watching video and seeing my swing get even tighter. My contact rate going up, my strikeout rate going down. And these are all a byproduct of getting stronger, feeling better, more bat speed, more bat control, having a more dynamic barrel inside of the strike zone. I mean, the strike zone is not two-dimensional. We watch it on television. Hitting and the strike zone are not two-dimensional. When we watch it on television, it appears as such, but being able to, read inside with your barrel inside of the strike zone, and take half swings or full swings, and be able to deliver your barrel to the ball as it breaks and rises and runs away from you, and attempt to put the ball in play on lines. That's the game. And so I felt like at first maybe 3-4 months ago when I attempted to come back, I didn't have that dynamic swing. Whereas each day, my swing continues to get more dynamic and faster, which is exactly the combo a good hitter's looking for.
Yeah. I'm always fascinated by how every year in baseball can be so different from the years that came before it. And I feel like you're having one of those years, even though you just explained some of it. Did you know that you have a higher home run percentage than Ohtani? You do. Higher than Ohtani, higher than Judge, higher than Olson. It's the highest percentage of your career. You also have as many homers as singles. Like that's a very unusual Joey Votto kind of year. So I'm curious what that tells you.
It tells me my swing's off. So
Really?
yeah, that's not going to last. I'm not going to be Ohtani Judge home run wise, because I'll shift those hard hit balls more to lines. And that's what I was trying to say about my attack angle. Joel McKeithen, our hitting coach, shared this with me in Milwaukee. I was in the midst of another cold stretch. The start to my season has been very volatile, and I was confused. I was either striking out, hitting high fly balls hard sometimes, but hitting fly balls and grounding the ball to the right side. And I was confused. I was like, my bat feels fast. Why do I keep missing this hanging breaking ball, this high fastball? And why am I 105ing balls into the outfielder's gloves straight up? Why am I popping those up by hitting them really hard? And I didn't ask this question. I was just kind of trying to work it out myself. And on my own, in the hotel rooms, in the batting cages, in the quiet times in your locker, you're refining, you're thinking, how do I solve this problem? How do I fix these misses? Because the goal is being a predictable hitter. Most hitters want to just be predictable. And I wasn't being predictable. I couldn't guarantee that when I got a quality pitch to hit, it was going to go in play hard. It was going to go over the fence hard. And so trying to solve this, I was like, okay, I have to start working down to the ball. I have to start working at a down angle to the ball and countering what I feel like is this slightly up move. So I'm in Milwaukee and I'm out getting loose in preparation for the Chris Russo interview. And
Good one.
And Joel pulls me aside. He says, your attack angle to the ball is like super high. It's in that, I'm not going to say hitters' names, but it's in the top 5 in terms of your attack angle is too high. You're in the bucket of guys that homer, strike out, or ground out. And I was like, that's not allowable. I'm not going to allow that. He goes, the top 50 ex-WOBA guys are usually in this, I was at the time I was at 16 degrees roughly. And he said, the best guys are usually in the 7 to 12 range. And most really good guys are kind of in that, he said Ohtani's something like 7 or 9, Acuna something like 5 or 7. And so basically he's telling me they pull the ball and intuitively I know this. So this is not like new, eureka information. He's telling me, or I intuitively I know you pull the bat down and attack the bat attack with the barrel as flat as you possibly can, as opposed to like a steeper angle. And so to go back to your original point about homers and Ohtani and being among that elite class, that as I continue to refine my attack angle, my homers will go down, but my K rate will go down. My line drives will increase. My hits and average, everything good that's a part of my skill set will go up. I'm still going to hit home runs as long as I'm healthy, because I still have bat speed. The ball comes off my bat well. But the more I work down to the ball, the more the home runs will be driven down, but all the other good stuff will come. I have like no walks against right-handed pitching.
Wow.
And that's a byproduct of the swing path also. I'm either going to threaten when as I adjust the attack angle, ball will go and play, or I'll feel tighter, like more efficient to the ball, and I'll instead of swing over a slider or swing over a changeup or miss a high fastball, I either take be more likely to take. So each and every day, my swing is getting better. It's entirely a byproduct of this injury, but I can see it in the video. I can see it in the data. And most importantly, I'm starting to see it in the results on the field, which is what this is all about. So Ohtani and Judge and Olsen are going to be the elite home run hitters. I may be in that tier below. So.
Okay. Hey, our pal Glanville had a few questions he wanted to ask. I'm gonna pass along some of these questions. Here's one. We've got some rule change stuff going on in our sport right now, and people thought veteran players would have the toughest time adapting. And so Doug's question is, what have you learned about your adaptability and how that impacts your belief in your longevity?
I personally, and I'm in my own little echo chamber. Personally, I think it's a strength of mine. I've taken pride in, what are you handing me? Let me solve it, sort of thing. So as far as the rule changes, I felt nothing but excitement about them. My goal at the beginning of the year was to lead the league in least timeouts.
How's that going?
On a per plate appearance thing, I would guess I'm up there. I don't know. Like if you watch the Dodgers, they never take a timeout. So, and I respect that. It's about, get in the box and hit the best pitch and good hitters that make contact. And boy, the Dodgers have a lot of those. But good hitters that make contact, they don't need to step out of the box. They don't need to step out of the box. Guys that know that there's a line coming off their barrel, guys that know they'll swing at strikes, guys that know everything about the person that they're matching up with on the mound, or guys that are so good at reading, reacting, they can just sit in the box and just, okay, strike one, ball one, next pitch, sort of thing. It's these guys. It's not, whatever happens with the rules, it won't make a difference to them. So I would like to think I'm in that group. So as far as the pitch clock rule changes, I love it because we've had a ton of 2 hour and 20 and 2 hour and 40-minute games, which is right up my alley. I mean, less time on the field, the better.
Yeah.
As long as the product is great for the fan at home. But as far as how I view myself, I don't feel any of the changes. I don't feel any of the changes in the game in terms of like, ooh, this is crowding me. I feel like this is too much for me. I don't feel that way. I feel like what adjustments are being made? Let's adjust to them. Fastballs going down, more cutters, more sweeping slider, sweeping pitches, they call sweeper, I guess. More splitters, changeup, what have you. Adjust. New information. Change your game slightly to adjust to it. I've always, the only constant during my career is chasing success. That's it. And I'll let everyone else decide what I have to encounter, and I'll decide how I succeed.
All right, let me ask you about the next thing that's coming, which is electronic ball strike calling. You just did the whole rehab option thing in AAA where they're doing this. What was that like? What's the biggest shock to somebody who knows the strike zone like you do of dealing with a machine calling strikes?
So the strike zone there feels much smaller, especially on the top portion of the zone.
Yeah, on purpose.
Right. So there be pitches I would take maybe just as like getting a feel for the pitcher. And oftentimes when I'm in the box, whether I'm taking full take or taking like read take, like as in I'm going to swing, I'll talk. Like I'll say no, like as the ball's coming in. And so sometimes when I would take a pitch, I'd be like yes, and it would feel like it right down the middle, and then it would be a ball. And then I would say to myself, uh-oh, this is not good for this is going to be a handful for pitchers, because I mean, they're firing balls what feels like down the middle, and they're being taken for balls. So how did I feel about the strike zone? I felt like it was incredibly accurate, of course, but it also tells me I'm a believer, and we've had this debate in the clubhouse, strong, really fervent debate. I'm a believer that the strike zone dictates the game. It's the strike zone that decides. It's the size of the strike zone that decides how the game looks. I liken it to the NBA. The hoop and its height decide how the NBA looks. The entire, I would say that the league averages 6'7". Because the height of the hoop is 10 feet tall. And in baseball, the tighter the strike zone, I think the taller the game gets. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But either way, the strike zone will dictate how offense looks, how the pitchers look, what front offices and coaching staffs, what kind of pitchers they add to their roster. So I feel strongly that that whatever changes they make to the game will completely change the game in a lot of ways. So
that one's definitely going to change it, whatever form it winds up taking. It's going to be a fascinating dynamic when it happens.
I bet all right, probably take years before all teams find their efficiency, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
And then because it have to carry up through, like we're experiencing it now with the changes to the pickoffs and the base size. So like you can see the slight lag with the league in terms of not taking advantage with speed, if that makes sense. Some teams have abused it, have really taken advantage of it, have tacked on probably a few extra wins, and some teams have missed out on it, maybe more stationary teams. I could be wrong on that one, and I really don't.
You're right.
I don't like speaking on other teams. I really don't. I don't like speaking on the league in general because I only know so much. But I think I've seen games where you'll see one team and they're blazing all over the place, and they change we just played the Nationals and they stole all the time, and it was like, holy cow. And then you'll play another team and they'll be stationary the whole time. It'll feel like it's 2021 sort of thing,
Yeah.
And I think that the game will, I don't know, we may see some changes in that way.
We're already seeing it. Your team is like the ultimate example of where the game is going, I think. So let me ask you about your team. Elly De La Cruz, Joey, I'm in awe of the talent of that guy. So a few weeks ago, you watched this. He stole second, he stole third, he stole home in a span of like 12 seconds. Yeah. Here's my question. If I had the power to give you, Joey Votto, the speed of Elly De La Cruz, what would you do? How would you change how you play baseball?
How would I change how I play baseball? Well, contact would become more of a priority for me, but you have to find that sweet spot of because I can hit the ball hard and hit it over the fence. I don't want to give up too much of that with my contact attempts. So there's an opportunity cost thing there. You take a contact swing, you miss out on the power options. If I had a speed, I would like to think I would be an efficient base stealer. I would like to think that I would be, I would be a good base runner in general, going first to third, second to home, and first to home. So I think that those things can really help a team. It's something I've tried to take pride on, even with my below average speed. And so, listen, you laugh, but it's my life. Okay.
Sorry. Below average is a great term. I like that term. I'm going to use that.
Well, below average, below, and then I fit in right here.
Right. But see, I'm giving you the chance to go from there to there to there to there. Like, how many innings would you steal second, third, and home? Pretty much every one, you think? With your savvy?
Well, savvy. If I had Elly speed, I'd probably be a more aggressive base runner, and a base stealer, of course. I mean, the base is right there. So,
Yes.
I mean, speed is such a luxury, and more importantly, wow, what a joy it is to watch these guys run. Like, if I were a fan, I'd be on, I'd get off my, when guys are on base in the past, I could see how someone may putt around on their phone, check Twitter, check X, excuse me, check Instagram, whatever, and they wouldn't be in tune because they're like, no one's running, I'll just watch the pitches. Whereas like now, if you watch a team or watch players that are base runners, you have to watch the pickoff, you have to watch the catcher throwback, you have to watch because there's guys trying to steal in between. Acuna, for example, he'll run to second base on a walk and then take third. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, if I were to get a season ticket anywhere, it'd be either for either Anaheim or Atlanta, because of how fun those two guys, both Ronald Acuna Jr. and Shohei Ohtani, are to watch. But yeah, I mean, the game is different in terms of you have to keep your eyes on the game, and that's what we want. Please keep your eyes on us, sort of thing.
Another thing, obviously, about these guys you're playing with. I mean, it feels like while you were rehabbing, the Reds called up like 22 guys, all of them designed to make you feel old. Okay, I don't know if that's working, but I am curious what so many being around so many young guys, what they've taught you, just because they're at such a different stage of life, and also what you have taught them, because you've already done the stuff that they have never experienced in their life.
Well, taught. There's a lot of things to learn from a new group as far as perspective, optimism, excitement, daily energy, being, these, I feel like this group, maybe, I don't know if it's this generation, but certainly this group, they're really supportive of one another. And they have, a consistency of a consistent like friendship and amiability. Is that a word? I think that's a word.
Sure.
And they're just great together. So improving my teammate abilities, I've learned a tremendous amount.
Really? Like, what have you learned?
I don't know. There's just ways that, like, so the culture when I first came up was very kind of snarky talk. Like that's the way you showed. That's the way you showed your friendliness. You would be snarky to one another. Whereas these guys take snarkiness as disrespectful.
Wow.
So I've had to adapt my language, the way I speak with everyone. Snarkiness is like not welcome. It's my way. It used to be our way of being like, hey, I like you. Hey, I'm supporting you. Hey, I got your back. But I don't want to be too supportive. Whereas now it'll be like they'll just say the words of how they feel. Hey, I really like that swing. You're doing great, man. You're my guy, sort of thing. And so that's been a bit of adjustment for me. Easy adjustment. I feel like that's been good for me over the last X number of years, 5 years or so. And then as far as what I've taught them, well, it'd be awfully assuming of me to say what I taught them. I don't know. I have always taken pride in consistency of my work, consistency in terms of the way I compete, making sure that I'm accountable for myself. I've tried to keep it tight in terms of reactions post failure. That's a real challenge for me because I'm pretty fiery on the inside, and there are times where I want to react. But in time, I've learned that let's just put the helmet away. Let's just keep our mouth shut and let's just sit down and simmer. I can't always do that, but I found that just being a repeatable, predictable person. I'm always in the gym pre-game prepping. I'm always in the gym post-game coming down. I'm always in the cage doing my routine. I'm always on the field doing my defensive work. When I'm on the field, I attempt to give 100%. I try to run that every single day. So I would like to think my example, the same way I learned from, the Scott Rowlands, the same way I learned from, other peers that played consistent and played hard, guys on other teams. I used to love watching Chase Utley play. I used to love watching Adrian Beltre play. These are guys that I respected and admired, that were consistent. And I think that's the way I like to teach. Sometimes I'll say something in meetings, but oftentimes if I don't deliver a concise message, I feel like I may not have hit it home, sort of thing. So I try to demonstrate with my actions.
Okay, I have another Glanville question. This is very not snarky, this question. He wanted to ask you about turning 40 in September. What does that mean to you? And what did you once think you would feel being in the game at 40? And did you even think you'd still be playing the game at 40?
To answer the last question, yes. I was confident of that. There was no other route. There was no other route. And I say that because my late father, who died 15 years ago, and I used to talk about this particular subject, and he used to tell me, when I'm 40, I feel great. You're going to play until you're going to play in your, past 40, in your 40s. When you're 40, you're going to play when you're 40, and you're going to be fine. And I remember that being a truth for me, like that being like an absolute, like, no matter what, I'm going to be fine when I'm 40. So it doesn't matter. Everything in before it is just, it's already written. It's already been written. So that, to me, yeah, it's just, it just is what it is. And so how does it feel? More attention to detail as far as sleep and diet. Embarrassingly, you wouldn't believe what time I got up today, what time I
All
went
right,
to
I'm going to ask you, what time did you get up today, Joey?
1:45 p.m.
1:45 p.m.
I'm trying to max out my sleep.
That's good.
Do I want to do that? No, I want to be up at 6 a.m., 7 a.m. But sleep is the most important thing I can accumulate during the season. I don't always wake up at that time, but today in particular, I felt like there was a need. And so sleep, maxing that out, keeping your diet tight. I don't remember the last time. I may have touched a little bit of ice cream or something like that on an off day, but keeping the diet tight. And then the most important thing for me, maybe not most important thing, but certainly amongst the important three, my movement, like making sure that I'm consistently moving in the right way, opening up the parts of my body that need to stay open. I watched Ichiro when he was playing for the Marlins, and here he is, 43, 44 years old, every day playing long toss, running his sprints, doing his, calisthenics. And I watched him. I just sat there and watched him. And again, it's back to the watching. I didn't need him to instruct. I just watched his actions. And I was in awe, true awe of how well he moved. And I watched him in the game, flying, cannon, good defense. And I'm thinking, this guy is 43, 44 years old. Why is he moving so well? And I just went out the same time the next day and I watched him move. Then the next day, watched him move. And I'm thinking, okay, I think, and then I started Google searching like articles on him about his the way he takes care of his body. And so I accumulated an idea of how I need to take care of myself. And I started to build those habits, and I noticed is really taking care of how I feel on a daily basis. If I don't stay on the movement part of it, then I risk maybe a little tweak, something comes up sore, I'm not moving quite as well. If you don't stay on it, you go down, sort of thing. So those are the three most important things as I approach 40. And then I think, as I mentioned first, that message from my father, you can do it. You can do it. And I firmly believe it. Now, as I sit here a month away from being 40, I'm confident I can do it. I feel like it's in my control to be able to come back from this crummy injury, and to be able to perform well, and I will perform even better to finish the season. That's a product of my, the work, of course, but to have that message from my father, I think has gone a million miles. So yeah, I would say that's the combination.
Wow, that's really cool. Well, let's wrap this up by let me asking you about this unique place that you find yourself. You're in a place that you've never been, right? The last guaranteed year of your contract. So I wonder if that's caused you to approach the journey differently as you've gone through this season. And there's also the other part of it, the future. I mean, I'm not good at predicting it. Maybe you're better at it. I'm curious about where you think you will be in life a year from now.
Right. Yeah, that's a good question. When in the midst of this comeback from the injury, there's so many moments where the doubt creeps in, where it's like you're done, or you really think you can keep doing this sort of thing, and then things get better. Swing gets better, body starts feeling better, shoulder, arm in general, body in general starts feeling better, and then it's like, no, 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 I want more, sort of thing. And it coming back from this rehab has kind of been this sort of up and down experience, and if you anything on social or any articles or any commentary in person or any message from a fan, excuse me, even on the field, your peers, it's, you know, old guy, washed up, retire, or wow, you're old, amazing. I can't believe it. You're almost 40. This is incredible. You can do the, Tom Brady thing, blah, blah, blah. So it's like the message being sent to me is like, we know that whoever's speaking to me understands the context of where I'm at, and are providing their own sort of, projection onto it. And so to answer the question about where I see myself in a year, I've tried really hard to stay present. I've tried really hard to not get too far ahead of myself, because today's at bats and the next day's at bats, each day's individual at bats, defense, base running, they're all basically a tryout, not to other teams, not to my team, but they're actually a message I'm sending to myself on a daily basis. I want to be an effective major league player. I want to be a really good major league player, and one of those players that you just pencil in the lineup and forget about. You throw him at first and you forget about him. He's going to run the bases and you forget about him. That's what I've been when I entered the league, and that's most likely what I'm going to be when I leave the league, excuse me. And so every single day is, you are going to send yourself the message that you can do it, sort of thing. And then whatever happens. I know when I play well, I'm a major league player. I'm not going to be soft about this. I'm a major league player. There's nothing to say about that. When I'm not a major league player, I'll leave. And if you're asking about where I think I'll be next year, I have limited control on that, right? They have an option. They have an option, a team option for next year, and we'll see what they have to say about it. We'll see what most importantly, we'll see how they feel about me. Like, it's time at some point to move on. Maybe they feel like they want to move on. It's time at some point to, maybe they feel like they don't want to pay me. Maybe they feel like there's budgetary stuff. I have no idea whatsoever. All I can really do is run through this finish line, play. And to be honest with you, that's really all where my head's at. I've been a Cincinnati Red my entire career. I have nothing but pride wearing this uniform. I would love to finish my career in a Reds uniform, but there's only so much control I have over that, and I don't want to speak on contracts, but that's up to them. That's up to them, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. I'm going to finish off the year strong, and I feel great. Like in 21, I had a really good year. I think I was like top 5 or 10 expected WOBA. So it wasn't just like my stadium sort of thing. You know, I finished top 5 in OPS and in the NL, played well defensively, felt good every day. My bat had good whip to it, ran through the finish line at the end, had a good finish to the season. And I was like, oh, I'll just do that in 22. Actually, I'll do better than that in 22. And I you know, COVID for me was super crummy. Like I had a really not good start to the season, but I wasn't worried about that. COVID hit me, and then the injury, and without making excuses, it was a really difficult thing. It was impossible to overcome. I tried everything I could, and this to me is like the opportunity to say, no, I'm healthy. I'm still a very capable player, and you know, so whether my career is done after this year or in future years, I'm gonna just continue to run through the finish line each and every day. So, yeah.
Yeah, you know, there is something so cool about playing for one team your whole career. Doug and I were reflecting on this. He had a question about it. I'm not going to run through that, but
It's a relationship though. You
it
know,
is,
there has to be
of course.
there were times in the heart of my contract where, you know, I was frustrated. I was frustrated, and there were times in the heart of the contract where they were frustrated. I'm sure there were probably countless times where they wanted to trade me. No one would ever tell me that, but it's not going to hurt my feelings if you wanted to get rid of me. Like there was probably times, whether it's the how much they were paying me, or maybe they didn't like my personality, or that maybe they didn't like how I was playing. I had a knee injury in the heart of it. Maybe they thought whatever perception I'm sure during the relationship, because there were times where I was frustrated too. But that is a long-term relationship, and that's an impossible thing to avoid over the course of a long contract and a long experience together. And we've made it this far, sort of thing. And I have nothing but admiration and respect. I didn't think I was going to be a career Cincinnati Red player. When I was drafted, I was like, oh, I'm a Cincinnati Red. And then as you kind of get older, you're like, oh, I'm a Cincinnati Red. This is kind of fun. I like this. But like, you don't know if the team, you see guys get traded, you see guys sign with other teams. You see, you know, my father died. I kind of wanted to be with my family in Toronto. You know, I wanted to be with my younger brothers. But I was like, do I? And then with time, you're like, no, I'm proud of this. No, this is my home. No, this is my heart. This is my career. This is me. I am this. And so I'm sure there were times where they felt the same way on their end. And so, you know, but to make it this far as a Red in one uniform, you know, I have nothing but pride in wearing this uniform. It's been an honor the entire time.
I mean, you're probably going to have to assess, all right, what does it mean to me to walk away saying I was a one-team player, right? So, I mean, if you got into a situation where there was some other team, say it's a great team that wants you, and your choice is go do that or retire as a one-team player, a Red for life, how difficult would that decision be?
Right. Yeah. The jackpot to me is winning a championship as a Red. That's the jackpot to me. It's an odd feeling. So I'm a bit of I don't want to say old school type, but I admired the Birds, the Magics, the Jordans. You know, my favorite players in baseball, you know, Ted Williams, Cal Ripken, Derek Jeter, you know, the guys that stayed with one team, you know, we are in Pittsburgh, Roberto Clemente. You know, I have a real admiration for, you know, probably if Frank Robinson had stayed with the Reds, he would have been my favorite player of all time. You know, I look back, I met him fortunately at an all-star game, and I didn't want to say it to him, but I loved watching the video, seeing his swing, seeing the way he performed during his career. I love Frank Robinson, you know, but it bums me out that they flipped him. They flipped him to the Orioles.
Right.
You know, if I'm not mistaken, he was wearing an Orioles cap, the Hall of Famer.
He was, yeah.
Is he not?
Yeah, yeah.
I can only imagine that comes from a little bit, maybe I'm projecting, but a little bit of like, you guys didn't want me? I'm gonna win a triple crown over here and a most valuable player. sort of thing. Maybe not. Maybe he just had such a great time in Baltimore. But you know, my jackpot is winning a championship with the Reds. So the idea of like glomming on with another organization to win a ring, first of all, championships aren't guaranteed, of course. You know, we were the first place team that got beat by the Giants that won the World Series in 2012. So I've seen the wild card of wild card teams have the coolest moment in our sport. So that doesn't appeal to me. If I speak it out loud, going to another team to chase a ring, it only means so much to me. So it's like it's the jackpot for me is winning with the Reds, and you know, so yeah.
Joe, I could talk to you all day. I know you got other stuff to do,
Yeah,
but
I gotta go to work.
you should do that. Look, it's always special to get a chance to talk to you about pretty much anything. We would love it if we could make this an annual tradition. You just have to promise that you'll always come back every year to Starkville, and we'll get the Starkville diner going. The pie will be, you'll be able to smell the pie from wherever you are. It's very enticing.
Sounds good. I look forward.
Okay, Doug is back, and it's a good thing because it's that time again. It's time for listener trivia, our way of involving you, our favorite listeners in this show. Doug, we've ripped off 2 of these things in a row. So I was thinking about this. I think we're now in position to do something I'm pretty sure we've never done. Get at least one trivia question right in every month of the season. We've got one in April, May, June, July, and now August. Only 1 month to go. So where would that stand among your great career achievements?
Yeah, I didn't think about the month streak like that.
Yeah.
It's Joe DiMaggio comes to mind. That's the first thing that I have to think about. Yeah, phenomenal. Great run.
Very DiMaggio-like.
Yeah.
Hey, just so you know, I think we have our work cut out for us this week. So on that note, let's welcome in this week's special trivia guest star. It's actually one of my neighbors, Rich Weiss. Rich, welcome to Starkville.
Thank you. It's great to be on here. You guys are the greatest.
I appreciate that, my friend. Normally I'm running into Rich on the streets of Bucks County, but you have to admit, Rich, it's way more exciting to meet up on the streets of Starkville, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Okay. Why don't you tell people listening just a little about yourself, what team you root for, what you love about baseball, stuff you used to yell at Doug Glanville, that sort of thing.
Phillies all the way. I used to yell at Doug in the caverns of the vet when it was empty and trying to get Doug to get that batting average up before he got traded or something like that. But, he never turned around. That's okay.
Really? Yeah,
in the zone,
he heard
man,
every word though, right, Doug?
Oh yeah, of course. I just in the zone there. Well, I heard the guy
nice contract, Doug.
Yeah, yes.
I used to yell at Gary Maddox too back there.
Yeah, lay the bunt down. I mean, what was cool about Philly, and you had to be on your toes though. When I was living downtown, I'd walk the streets. People would stop me listening to talk radio and be like, "Hey, you got to keep your front shoulder tucked in, man. You got to what are you doing?" They were at detailed advice. So I was all, Philly, you got to be ready to play in Philly.
Yeah, no kidding.
I have my companion here, my dog right here. You can probably see him.
Yeah,
His name is Cooper. His name is Cooperstown.
Whoa, love it.
And my first dog was Schmitty. The second dog was Chase Utley. Here's Cooperstown. So I'm a retired Philadelphia school teacher, phys ed department at Central High. I used to be the varsity baseball coach there for 9 years, and I still umpire baseball in Philly and the suburbs. You could see me at Council Rock, Jason. If you take a ride over there, I'll be there a lot. And that's I'm pure baseball.
All right, sounds good. Hey, look, the catching up has been fun as always. Now comes the part that's not that fun for us, the actual trivia part. So let's do this, Rich. Why don't you hit us with your trivia question?
Okay, because this one I thought it was really good, and you obviously did too. So it's a two-part question, guys. So, which pitcher is the only pitcher in Major League history who has earned saves in the deciding game of the World Series in 3 consecutive seasons? That's part one. Three straight games in the World Series, back to back to back.
Game.
And then the second part is only one other pitcher in history has done it in 2 consecutive seasons. And that is, again, post 1970. Who is that other guy who did it 2 years in a row?
Okay, I don't know if I'm committing to both parts of this. But
bonus.
We're just going to commit to the part that we get right. Let's do that. What do you think, Doug? That seems like a good plan.
If we get either of them, though, we got to get. That's the tough part,
right?
So it's three consecutive seasons. They won the World Series,
saving the deciding game of the World Series.
So that the celebration began, and this was the same dude 3 years in a row. Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Okay,
that actually happened.
It happened. Okay. So the obvious place to start is with teams that have three-peated, because there aren't many of them, especially not since 1969, which is when saves became an official stat. So got the Yankees, 1998 to 2000, so that would be Mariano. And you got the A's of the 1970s, which I think must be Raleigh Fingers, right?
Yep. Two good guesses.
Of course, but then the other thing is you could have somebody
like traded and do it again.
Traded, bounced from team to team. I mean, there is that possibility. Like Mariano just seems way too obvious to me. Even Raleigh Fingers seems kind of obvious. I'm not ruling him out, but I know the way the trivia people tend to think because I'm one of them. Okay. So, all right. So we'll just leave those two in a separate category, right? So the other thing I think we know, Doug, it can't be that recent. The last decade has been a bunch of mostly random pitchers who have saved these games, starters, and all kinds of unexpected stuff. So, Rich, I'm thinking that this actually goes pretty far back, 70s, 80s, 90s. If you feel like giving us a hint, hints are always happily accepted. What do you think?
What are you talking about? Hint for part two you're talking about? Or?
A hint for part one, like what era we're talking about.
Oh, well, there's only, I think we have two answers, right? That we
it could be somebody who did team up.
Let's cut to the chase so we have time for part two. You did say one of the two, so one of those two was
it's one of the two.
I'm not gonna make you guys go fishing. So that
okay. All right. Well, I see, it seems to me that Mariano would be way too obvious. So I think it's Raleigh Fingers. I might be overthinking it though. I've done that before.
The answer is Mariano.
Okay, hold on a second.
Oh wait,
we didn't.
we didn't get to. We didn't thrash.
Wait, we didn't get to thrash. It's just Mariano.
Mariano, 98, 99, and 2000.
Oh my God, this is the most embarrassing thing we've ever gotten wrong.
I mean, we didn't get a chance to thrash over it like this.
Let's thrash over.
I was definitely going to push back on that because I was going to go through each.
You'll be more impressed by your listeners if you get number two, because most people, 99% people, will get number one.
Oh, so, okay. Well, I wish I had known that. All right. I actually think I know the guy with two.
Really?
I think it's Dwayne Ward from the 1992-93 Blue Jays. Is that right?
Nope.
Oh no. Oh. Yeah, and I was so proud of myself too. Well, it could be Goose Gossage, Sparky Lyle from those 70s Yankees.
At the right decade.
70s. So, all right, what's this question? This is like
so it could be Raleigh Eastwick from
in the 70s.
Machine. That's a good one, huh?
So
Raleigh
70s,
Eastwick.
2 consecutive years, and it could be one team.
So the Yankees won back to back, and the Reds won back to back, and the A's won 72, 3, and 4. So that would make it
What, Raleigh Fingers again?
Okay, that would make it Sparky Lyle or Raleigh Eastwick or Raleigh Fingers. Doug, you pick. These are bonus points anyway.
No, I mean, so consecutive, and they're in the same team. Where they didn't really get traded that much in the 70s, right? Would you trade?
I thought about guys like Jeff Reardon, whatever. I don't think he ever did it.
Yeah, well, I was thinking like Will Smith, and he didn't close it, but that was 2000. Okay, back to 70s. All right, so Reds, A's, and who are we saying?
Raleigh Eastwick,
Yankees,
Raleigh Fingers, or Sparky Lyle. That's what I think.
Oh boy, I have no idea. All right, Yankees. That was Reggie, Mr. October, Sparky. Guys went like 9 innings all the time. Raleigh Eastwick, and Fingers is the other one.
Here's the thing.
I mean,
Sparky Anderson managed the Big Red Machine. What was his nickname, Doug? Captain Hook. Doesn't that tell you he was ahead of his time and going to the pen? I think it's Raleigh Eastwick. I want to guess Raleigh Eastwick.
I'll let you take these guesses. It sounds good. I don't have a contrary vote on this.
I just missed a question that Mariano Rivera was the answer to, so don't trust me. But anyway, Rich, Raleigh Eastwick is our guess.
This is funny. So Doug actually said a guy's first name, but the last name was wrong. That's the funny part. And Jason, you got the right team, but the wrong closer.
So Goose?
I said, Will Smith? Are you talking about when I said what?
That was the right first name.
Oh, so Will McEnany?
That's right.
Will McEnany saved those games for the Big Red Machine?
Is that crazy? Is that nuts?
I like it.
All right. Well, we
weren't
good. There's no reason we would have got that one right. The Mariano Rivera question, oh my God. but here's the deal, Rich. Once people get tired of us thrashing around trying to answer these questions, there's still a part of the segment nobody ever gets tired of. And that's the part where we bring in the mayor of Starkville, Tim McMaster, to play another fabulous play-by-play clip involving this week's answer. So, Tim, what do you got for us this week that'll distract people from the horrible job by us in missing Mariano?
Well, this was a pretty easy one when you think about Mariano, right? So you go back to the third one. Here you go, 2000. That was the Subway Series with the Mets. Mariano Rivera in to close it out.
Justice is gone, so Stanton. And in his place, Mariano Rivera, who is tied with Raleigh Fingers for the most saves all time in World Series play.
And in postseason play, he has 18 saves, 3 more than Dennis Eckersley.
Beyonce gets into one to center. Back is Brian Williams, a three-piece. The New York Yankees, for the third time in a row, fourth time in 5 years, and 26th time in franchise history, they are the world champions.
Joe Buck, Tim McCarver, Mariano Rivera. I've heard of them all. We didn't name the one that was the most obvious answer to any trivia question we've ever been asked on this show. So, Rich, thanks for stopping us. Thanks for joining us. I will see you around the neighborhood.
You're very welcome. Take care.
Man, it was another great week for Strange But True. Doug, there was so much weird stuff that we could have picked. But there are times I feel like you shouldn't try to overthink these things. I don't know if you heard the Doug. There was no hitter last week. Okay, so it was perfect timing too, because a week ago on Starkville, we spent a lot of time talking to Dave Dombrowski of the Phillies about trading for, guess who? Michael Lorenzen. And be sure to go back and catch that chat if you missed it. It was really interesting. But I digress. Hold on 1 second. But then on Wednesday night, that same guy, Michael Lorenzen, had himself the game of a lifetime. Let's hear what it sounds like when a guy throws a no-hitter, and this is the final out.
Swung on, popped up, shallow center field. Rojas sprinting in, he's under it. He has space, makes the catch, and Michael Lorenzen has thrown the 14th no-hitter in Philadelphia Phillies history. He is being mobbed by his teammates as the Phillies shut out the Nationals 7-0. The bell never rang so beautifully. 124 pitches, 15 fly ball outs, and a masterful celebration. Tip of the cap to Rob Thompson. He gave a young man a chance to do something that only the special ones are able to do.
Welcome to Philadelphia. Welcome to Citizens Bank Park. Michael Lorenzen. Wow.
That was Tom McCarthy and John Kruk on NBC Sports Philadelphia. And you know what was so cool, Doug? Michael Lorenzen said afterward, he had always dreamed of pitching a no-hitter. So he had actually watched every one of Nolan Ryan's 7 no-hitters. That would be like you dreaming of breaking Joe DiMaggio's record. So you watched all 56 games of his hitting streak. Would that actually work?
Probably not, but it would have been fun. I don't think I would have realized that dream, but not pretty amazing. But yeah, the fact that he I know you want to visualize things, but he really made it happen. Phenomenal.
He did. And there's so many fantastic, strange but true tidbits that grew out of this no-hitter. I wrote 2 different columns about it, so check them out in The Athletic. But let's just run through a few of my favorites. How about this one? In the last 125 years, there have only been 2 pitchers who got traded in the middle of a season and then threw a no-hitter in their first start at home for the team that traded for him. One was Michael Lorenzen, who got traded to the Phillies. The other was a guy named Don Cardwell in 1960, who got traded by the Phillies to the Cubs. I thought that was tremendous. Yeah. Here's another one. I'm going to run through the 4 pitchers in Phillies history who pitched the most seasons for that team. Steve Carlton, 15 seasons, no-hitters. Robin Roberts, 14 seasons, no-hitters. They're both in the Hall of Fame. Chris Short, 13 seasons. How many no-hitters? None. Kurt Simmons, 12 seasons. How many no-hitters for him? 0. Nobody pitched for the Phillies longer than those 4 guys. 54 seasons. Not one no-hitter among the 4 of them. Michael Lorenzen gets traded to the Phillies. He's there a week, and then he throws a no-hitter the first time he ever steps on the mound in Philadelphia. So good. In fact, it's a kind of a cool thing that I dug up. Every pitcher who has pitched a no-hitter for the Phillies since 1890 was basically a guy who just got there in his first full season in Philadelphia. But Steve Carlton and all those guys didn't throw any. Okay, one more, Doug. This one's gotten around a little bit, but it's just amazing. A guy on X, or what used to be Twitter, he dug this up. He posted it. People have gone nuts. 4 pitchers in the history of baseball have reached the big leagues from Fullerton Union High School. Here are the 4. See if you can name what they have in common. Michael Lorenzen, Mike Warren, Steve Busby, and perhaps you've heard of Walter Johnson. Yeah. What do they have in common? They all have now pitched a no-hitter in the major leagues. They're the only 4 guys in the history of their school who got to the big leagues, and they all threw no-hitters. Is that nuts?
That doesn't make no sense at all. Yeah, that's cosmic right there. I mean,
yes.
Wow.
I know. Doug, I can't remember if you ever played in a no-hitter, but I remember all too well that you were out there that day that Eric Milton took a no-hitter into the 9th inning in the same ballpark, and a ball dropped in front of you. Stuff happens. We don't have to go through that whole story again because we've told it on the show a few times, but here's what I'd like to ask you. I always think about this. Can you describe what goes through your head when you're out in the field and you're basically counting down the outs in your brain to finish off a no-hitter?
I mean, that's like, I think stress is probably the best way to, I mean, yeah, you're excited about the possibility, but it's also, you might have to defend it. Certainly if you're on the defensive side. In the case with Eric Milton, I was, brought in for defense in the ninth inning, so that didn't work. But the idea is like, oh my gosh, like you might have to make that incredible play. Like, was it Burley's no-hitter with the White Sox, right?
Yeah.
I mean, was it Wise who went and climbed the wall?
Matt Wise. Yep.
Yeah, incredible. So I think it's coming, and there's all these rules like don't talk to the pitcher or whatever. But once you get past 5 innings, it becomes a thing, and that's probably happened a lot in my career. Like, oh boy, we're 5 innings in, and you usually, pretty much in my case, every time something happened and it was broken up. In the minor leagues, I had we got a no hit once in 1992. It was like my first full season. But during the game, a guy hit a hard line drive ground ball off of the third baseman's like shoulder glove. It was hit smoked. And
wow,
they gave him a hit. And it was like the second inning. And then it was Frankie Rodriguez. Remember the Red Sox? He also played shortstop. Well, Frankie then threw a no-hitter the rest of the way. And later the scorekeeper turned it back and said it was an error. And then it became a no-hitter. So it was a little bit, they weren't celebrating on the field. It was like later that the next day. So it was a little bit weird, but that's it. That's all I've had on the no-hitter front. And, but I think even without having the no-hitter, the anticipation is intense. It's really intense.
Yeah. I think I've told this story before, but I have a friend of mine. He's a big stats guy, data guy, analytics guy. I'm not going to name him, but he's argued with me in the past that we overreact to no-hitters because they are not a statistically significant event. And look, nobody likes statistically significant events more than me. Okay. Right. It's so irrelevant to this because when you're at one of these games, there's nothing like it. The way that the drama builds inning by inning as everyone in the park begins to realize what's going on. Yeah. And when you get down to the last 3 innings, everyone is counting down the outs. Everyone in the park, in uniform, out of uniform, and there are very few regular season events. I would say none, where the suspense, the drama, the goosebumps build out by out like that as the night goes along. And just an incredible experience to be at one. So here's to Michael Lorenzen. He just experienced something so many great pitchers never did. And he'll have this one with him for the rest of his life. All right, that's going to do it for this week's show. We'll be bringing you podcast magic just like this all season long on the Athletic Baseball Show, which is available in its entirety, absolutely free everywhere you get your podcasts. And if you'd like to read our fantastic coverage of, say, Michael Lorenzen's no-hitter or all the other great stuff we cover, here's how you can do that. Just go to theathletic.com/baseball show. And if you're a new subscriber, you can sign up for a 1-year subscription for just $1.99 a month for the next 12 months. But also remember, this is big. You too can be part of this podcast. Every show, we pick some fun listener trivia question. Then the fun listener gets to join us right here and prove once again that there's almost no baseball trivia question we can't get wrong, especially if they're as obvious as this week's question. So to do that, how would you join us? You could do what Rich Weiss did today. You can email us. The way to find us is starkville@theathletic.com. Starkville has an E on the end. There's Threads. I'm still putting out the call for trivia every week on Threads. You can check out my Facebook fan page. We've been getting some great questions over at Facebook. Or you can do what most people do. Hit us with trivia on that site we once used to call Twitter. Doug, I think we decided we're going to ask people to exit us, however that works. So if someone wants to X a question to you, is that possible?
Yeah, I mean, well, you forgot the two other ways. You could send carrier pigeons to the headquarters of the Athletic, or smoke signals. So those are two others. For me, yes, I'm going to say at Doug Glanville, but it could be X. I don't know. I'm waiting for the at to turn into an X. It hasn't yet, but it might. An X in a circle. That's cool. But it would be Doug Glanville. My name, DOUGGLAN. V as in Victor, ILLE. That's it. All good.
Maybe we should all start spelling our name with an X in there somewhere. I could be JAXSON, right? But instead, I'm at JAYSONST, Jason with a Y, ST. Just remember, hashtag your questions, hashtag StarkvilleQS. So, Doug, thanks for playing. Thanks to Joey Votto for making his annual visit to Starkville. Thanks to Rich Weiss for the great trivia question. Thanks to the mayor of Starkville, Tim McMaster, for producing us and putting up with us. And Doug and I will see you next week on
Starkville.